So, did I pick the right retirement date? Hey, I am Chuck the bureaucrat, and I have been waiting like 20 months to learn the 2024 cost of living adjustments, or COLA rates. And I know, that seems like a really obscure thing to be excited about, even for a person like me. But believe it or not, the method that DFAST uses to calculate the cost of living adjustment for new retirees, it sets the conditions that you can earn less from your pension for life because you chose to serve longer. It's a phenomenon called the COLA trap. And if you want to learn more about the details of why it exists, you can read Doug Fowler's Air War College paper, or you can watch one of my videos on it. The short explanation of the COLA trap goes like this. Military retirees get an annual cost of living adjustment that takes effect on the 1st of December. But in your first year of retirement, most military retirees are only retired for part of the year. So they don't get the full annual adjustment. They get a partial adjustment. And counter to what you would expect, that partial COLA adjustment is not simply a prorated version of the full annual adjustment. It is calculated using an entirely different formula that's set by Congress. Imagine we had a service member who had a high 36 months of base pay of $10,000 and that they had 20 years of service on the 1st of January. To keep this simple and to highlight the COLA trap, we're going to assume that they've reached the point in the pay scale where their average base pay isn't increasing. This person's initial pension is going to be based on their years of service multiplied times a 2.5% multiplier. So in January, when they have exactly 20 years of service, they would get 50% of their average base pay, or in this case, $5,000. And then each additional month that they serve, their length of service goes up by 1 month, and that brings their multiplier up by about 0.2%. So if they retire at the end of June, they receive about $5,100. I mean, that seems appropriate. The longer you serve, the bigger your pension, and the size of your pension is proportional to the length of your service. Now, if we look at this chart, we can imagine that there are 12 alternate versions of our hypothetical soldier who each chose to retire at a different month. Now, here is where the COLA trap rears its head. Usually, in November, DFAST publishes the COLA rates that affect the people who retired in the past year. You see what happened? Those 12 alternate versions of this hypothetical soldier, they picked their month of retirement without knowing what their partial COLA adjustment would be. The COLA rates for people who retired in 2024, like me, they're shown here. 3.1% for people who retired in January through March, 2.2% for people who retired in April through June, 0.9% for people who retired from July to September, and 0 for people who retired in October through December. Now, what that means is that those 12 alternate versions of our hypothetical soldier are going to get a plus up in their pension when they enter 2024. But that does not mean that these partial COLA adjustments are going to preserve that principle of he who serves longer gets a bigger pension. So you can see from this chart that for somebody who retired in 2024, it didn't really matter when they retired in terms of what the size of their pension would be going forward. Serving longer didn't really earn anybody a bigger pension, which is essentially a good thing for everybody who retired in 2024 without understanding how these forces worked. That was not what happened in 2022. That year, the timing and the magnitude of the cost of living adjustments was such that it actually penalized people for serving longer. So if you know anybody who's getting ready to retire in the next 2 or 3 years, you might have them watch this video to understand why March 1st is the best day to retire.